Hi everybody, this is Michael from turtleherding.com. Just thought I would share a, sure, you can turn on the main. Thank you. Uh, just a little impromptu video here. Uh, I have connected to my camera gear and my telescope down in Rodeo, New Mexico, and I just thought I'd give a shot at seeing if both Jupiter, which is this planet at the top left, and then you can see the 4 Galilean moons out to the right of Jupiter, and then Saturn, which is at the lower right of center, would fit in the same field of view in my big telescope down in Mexico. Now, just as a frame of reference, this usually doesn't happen. I can't fit the entire full moon in this telescope, in the field of view in a single field of view like this. So these two planets, Saturn and Jupiter, have not been this close in almost 800 years. So this is really a rare event, and it won't happen again, I think, for another 60 years, I think I heard somebody say. Don't quote me on that, I'd have to look, but I'm going to close the shutter down a little bit, reduce the exposure, and set my gain back. I want to try to get, well, there we're losing detail on Saturn itself, on the rings. We've already lost the Galilean moon. So the exposure necessary to get a view of each of these planets is actually quite different. As you can see here, now we can see Saturn in the lower right corner. You can see the rings a little bit more defined. And then, but Jupiter's still way blown out, and we've lost visibility of the 4 Galilean moons. So I'm going to actually zoom in 1:1, and we'll pan around and look at each of these individually. So there's Jupiter, and you can see, actually, you can barely see, I can see 3 of the 4 Galilean moons. Let me brighten it up just a little bit so you can see those. Okay, and there's the 4th, way out here to the right. So let me slide over just a little bit more. Now, things are moving around visually because of disturbance in the upper atmosphere of Earth. So, like looking across pavement on a hot sunny day, you'll see the light kind of ripples and bends. This is the same thing that occurs in the atmosphere when we're looking through our atmosphere at things up in space or in deep space. So that's why things are dancing around a little bit. The telescope itself is very steady. The mount is very steady. So we're just seeing that distortion due to the upper atmosphere. I'm going to change the settings here so that we can actually see if we can get any detail out of Jupiter. It's real faint. You might be able to see that there's a little bit of a band right across through here. And I'm not even sure if you can see my mouse. So apologies if you can't see the mouse. Ooh, that was really good. Every now and then, the air will just become super still through this column that I'm looking through in Earth's atmosphere. And when it does, you'll see the detail of Jupiter much more clearly. Oh, there was a moment there. So it's when you shoot pictures of planets, the best way to capture it is actually just to take video of the planet, and then you use software processing to actually sort out the most detailed to least detailed, and then only keep a certain percentage of the most detailed shots and stack those together so that you can get actual definition out of the planet. Because every now and then, like right there, you can see a little bit more. You can actually see 2 sets of lines, so 2 cloud bands across Jupiter there, and that's super cool that we're getting that level of steadiness right now. The big thing that's working against us right now is that Saturn and Jupiter are both very, very low in the western horizon, which means to look at them, we're looking through a lot of sky, a lot of atmosphere. If they were straight up overhead, it would be the minimum amount of atmosphere because you're looking perpendicular to Earth straight out through the atmosphere. Whereas now we're here on the curvature of Earth and we're having to look out across through all of this instead of just all this. And I don't even know if you can see that. I can't see my preview right now. So hopefully that makes sense and comes through. Okay, so let's go look at Saturn. And Saturn, I'll probably need to... Oh. Sorry, I'm operating this over a remote link out across AT&T network down in southern New Mexico. So let me brighten this up a little bit. And here you can see the body of Saturn, and you can clearly see the rings of Saturn. Right now, the atmosphere isn't steady enough to see what's called the Cassini division, which is the line that separates the two main cloud bands. With a clear or a steady night, when Saturn is mostly directly overhead, you can usually make out the Cassini division, especially right here on the left and right edges because of the way Saturn is tipped toward us. At different times throughout the Earth and Saturn's orbit, Saturn can be mostly almost face on with us. And so in those situations, you can see it much more clearly and much more easily. On the opposite end of that, Saturn can be where the rings are almost just a sliver when we're looking at it from our perspective, just edge on. So you can't see any detail about the rings at all. So we've got both Saturn and Jupiter here. Let me zoom back out. And so there is Jupiter and there is Saturn in the same view. It may not be terribly exciting to a lot of people, but to anyone in astronomy, it is extremely exciting right now. The closest approach between the two will actually be in a couple of days on December 21st. And if you want to go see this for yourself, it's best to go look just after sunset. Look off to the western horizon, kind of toward the southwest, and you'll see they're so close together that visually especially on the 21st, visually they will be almost indistinguishable to the naked eye. And right now they're probably pretty close to that. I'm going to switch over and see if I have any chats here. Oh, that's not going to work. Need to do it a different way. Hey, yep, David. Hi, buddy. Yeah, we're in Las Vegas. So I'm sitting on a site in the Las Vegas Motor Coach Resort, connecting out over the internet to my observatory in Rodeo, New Mexico, which is down on the boot heel of New Mexico. So it's way far down there. It's about an 8.5 to 10 hour drive, depending on how you're driving and what traffic is doing. But it is really very much the middle of nowhere. I'm going to increase the exposure some more to get the moons back in there. We'll turn up the gain a little bit. There we go. Now we're seeing. So when I increase the exposure and gain enough to see the 4 Galilean moons, you can see there's a lot of just way blown out on Jupiter and Saturn, actually both. And on Saturn, you can't even see the space between the rings and the bulk of Saturn. So there's the 4 Galilean moons. So I think we're getting a question from the family here. So, does anyone have any questions out there? I see we've got about 9 viewers right now, 9 or 10, and 3 likes already. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn this exposure down again to try to keep from blowing out everything. And then I'm going to take some video here to see if I can process this later and get any detail out of anything. It's really got to be, okay. All right, so let me record some video. And by the way, this is this camera is monochrome, so it's black and white. But I have filters on a wheel that I can adjust so that I can get red, green, blue colors on this monochrome camera and then combine those together to get a color image. But I can't preview a color image because I have to actually take pictures with each filter. So let me... It's been a while since I've used this particular bit of software, so I'm going to see if I can do a capture. Yep, all right, so it's recording right now. We'll let it record for about a minute, and then I'll stop the recording and go back to adjusting things. All right, so there's a minute's worth. And keep in mind, I'm only capturing 8.89 milliseconds per frame. So it really is video at this point. And I know you can't see much detail. Matter of fact, you can barely even see Saturn at this exposure. But what happens when you process this is even the little faintest little bit of detail that you get from even the Galilean moons, that becomes much, much more detailed and visually brighter after it's processed. So let me turn this back up here. I'll turn the gain up and take a look at those moons again. And actually, what I can do is, let me flip this to Jupiter. And that's not what I was hoping for. Let me change my field of view to max again. There we go, back to that. And now I can actually put up data about, okay, so now let me increase the gain again so we can see the moons. All right, so what I put up on screen here, this shows the relative position of the Galilean moons. So this is a representation of Jupiter, and then this first one is Io. The dryer appears to be done. Then Europa, then Ganymede, and Callisto. So those are the 4 Galilean moons. As of right now, with space-based telescopes and flybys of Jupiter, we've been able to determine that there are, if I remember right, the last count was about 78 moons around Jupiter. We can only visually see these four from Earth because the rest are significantly smaller, so they don't reflect as much light. And these are called the Galilean moons because they were first observed by Galileo when he was using his telescope and visually looking at things in the universe. Saturn does have some moons as well. I don't really know how many, but they are extremely difficult to pick up with a telescope here on Earth. Let me switch back to Saturn and see if it actually tells us. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Okay, and now let me put up. No, nothing really specific about Saturn. So I'll switch back to Jupiter just so I have a reference for the order of the moons again. There we go. Okay, very good. So there are, if you're really lucky and good, you can actually image Jupiter while a moon is transiting, and you can get the moon, Jupiter, and then on the surface of Jupiter, on the upper atmosphere, you can see the shadow of one of the moons transiting across Jupiter. I'm not sure what this out here is. It's probably just a star way out in space, but you might be able to see there's a little bit of a white twinkle there. Let's see how far down we are, how close to the horizon. And let me turn on my landscape. Oh yeah, real close. And let me try to switch to the landscape of my observatory, because I did take pictures at my observatory in order to be able to use them in Stellarium. I think it's in this one. Yes, landscape. And evidently I don't have my AstroShed on this one. That's unfortunate. So there's actually a mountain along the southwest of the observatory where I have it in Rodeo. It's the what's the name of the mountain range? Chiricahua. Thank you. So the Chiricahua mountain range there. So this is going to be setting below the mountains very, very soon. All right. Switch back over to here and see if we have any more chats. Hey, Augusto. Hello, Martin. Hello, Robert. Thank you all for joining. What size and type of telescope is this? So this is a 12.5-inch Planewave corrected Dahl-Kirkman telescope. Let me pull up a picture of it here, and I can share that with you. I think we had a network hiccup on our internet there, so I seem to be back. Apologies for that. Not sure what happened. We're on gigabit cable internet here in Las Vegas, so I guess things still happen. I was going to bring up a picture So what I'll do is I'll share another browser window here. Actually, I can put it in the remote session. That's what I can do. Sorry, I hope our internet holds up for the rest of the broadcast. Sorry, this will probably be pixelated for just a moment. I just want to get down to a shot that actually shows the telescope with some level of detail. I really should have curated this a little bit more. So here's the observatory itself. This is what it looks like. It's completely off-grid with the exception of a a cellular internet connection. So it's got 4 solar panels, um, 2 batteries inside, and then everything inside the shed is ran from the batteries. The roof rolls off to the north. In this shot, it would be rolling away from you out over those rails, which is what's happened right now. And then this flap is open. Let me get back to see a shot of the telescope. Well, this has a bit of a view of it. So this is the focuser. This is a guide camera. The main camera is actually off to the left here. This is power distribution, a USB hub on top, and then this allows controlling of the fans that are inside the telescope, and then this allows controlling of the heaters, and then that's the telescope stretching out there into the distance, and that far end is the actual optical, the open end of the optics. Hey, John. Yeah, we lost signal, Augusto. It's just like being on the road, right? Martin Phillips, any news updates on SpaceX this week? Actually, this morning they did their final launch of the year and did their 70th successful return landing of a Falcon 9 booster. And that booster had flown, this was its 5th flight. So yeah, that's the big news for SpaceX this week. Looks like I got a telescope from NASA. Hey Robert, yeah, it was a labor of love for sure. Getting it all set up here. Let me switch back over here. Just adjusting the framing a little bit. Like I said, this is probably going to start setting behind the mountain here before too much longer. Let me get a different shot of the telescope here and send it to that computer so you can see a little bit better. All right, so this will be a lot better shot of the telescope itself. So there's a decent representation with my head in the shot. And that's what we're looking through right now, is that telescope. That flap is no longer on the scope. Sorry, let me flip over here. There's a lot of delay because the bandwidth out in southern New Mexico is not that good. I'm using an AT&T cellular connection out there. Oh, that was a good shot. There we go. So that's a decent visual comparison of my head size to the size of the telescope. John, yeah, so the 21st is the closest conjunction. But they're close enough right now that I can already fit them into the field of view of that big telescope. So usually I can't even fit the full moon inside a single at the same time across the chip on this telescope. So the field of view is usually not even permissible to see the full moon, let alone both Saturn and Jupiter in the same shot. Thanks, Robert. Yeah, I really like the setup down there. So we'll adjust down again and take a better look at Jupiter, or Saturn first. All right, so now you can see Saturn here. I'm going to zoom all the way down to Saturn itself. Then we'll full screen, or we'll maximize it here. Whew, boy, that's fuzzy. So that gives you an idea of just how much vibration and variation there is in the atmosphere right now. There, I can assure you Saturn is not moving that much, and my telescope is not moving that much. And we'll zoom back out. If I get the right window here. I started to try to manipulate this in OBS where it was broadcasting, and that doesn't work. And now we'll go in and see Jupiter. Zoom in there and adjust the exposure down to see if we can get some detail out of Jupiter. Yeah, it's really getting down in the soupy area of the atmosphere. It's just so much that we're shooting through to see this down on that western horizon. So it's really tough to get any detail out of that. All right, so I know this has been thrilling, technical glitches and all. And And so I'll switch over and see if we have any other questions. Augusto, no generator. It's, as David said, it is all solar with batteries. Hey, Sky, welcome to the stream. So I have, Augusto, I have 1,200 watts of solar panels and then 10 kilowatt hours of lithium-ion battery capacity. So that's what runs the entire shed, observatory, everything. And for those just joining, this is the conjunction of Jupiter, which is here on the left upper area, and then Saturn, which is down at the lower, just off to the right. And then these are the 4 Galilean moons that you can barely see there. And I'll turn up the gain to see those a little better. So 4 Galilean moons, Jupiter, and then Saturn. And the reason this is so special is that this telescope, okay. Yep, it got down to where the telescope decided it needed to park. So that'll be the end of the show. But normally I cannot get the full moon even in the field of view of the telescope, just to give you an idea of how tight its view of space is. And by not the full moon, I mean not even a quarter of the full moon at the same time. So to be able to get all of both Jupiter and Saturn in the same field of view is really rare, and it hasn't been this close in almost 800 years. So what happened here, the reason it started moving away, I have limits set on the telescope so that it won't move into a position where it could make the telescope contact the pier or the mount. And so it got to a point where it knew it wasn't able to image any lower anyway. So it went ahead and parked the telescope. So it's now returning to a safe position, but we won't be able to see Saturn or Jupiter. Let me see. I don't know if I can load a previous image into this. Never tried. Let me close this. I think that's pretty much it. I don't want to try to start processing this live on a YouTube stream. So there were questions earlier. This is the telescope we were just looking through, and it is now parked and safe, and we'll be able to fire it up again tomorrow night as long as the weather cooperates and get another view. And I'll show you, this is a view right now through an all sky camera. So this is a camera that's under a dome out in front of the observatory. Matter of fact, here at the north you can see the observatory. You can kind of see the shadow of the flap in the moon. So that's the moon right there. And then over here to the west, that really bright spot right there, that's Saturn and Jupiter that we were just looking at through the telescope. And then give you a little bit more of a tour here since you're on the stream. This is the Orion Constellation. So there's Betelgeuse, and then the 3 stars across for Orion's belt, and then Orion's dagger hanging down. This little clump of stars right here, if you can see the mouse, that's the Pleiades, or the 7 sisters. And Mars is probably being blinded out by the moon right now, so I don't think we can see Mars. At least not easily. So I'm going to go ahead and close my observatory. So right now, actually if we go here and refresh, so if you notice here, the position of the flap, it's still pretty much open. Here in a moment when I refresh, you'll see that that flap is closed, which means it'll actually be up into this area of the sky. All right, and I just got notice that the flap is closed and the roof is now closing. This only takes 30-second exposure, so it may be a minute before I can see that flap there. Let me see if I can get a live view inside the shed. And let me turn on the IR so we can watch what's going on here. Oh. All right, so that should kick on. There we go. All right, so now you can see the roof closing there over the telescope. You can see the telescope is parked. It's pointing north. The prevalent winds here in southern New Mexico come from the south, so I point the tube so that the open end of the telescope points north inside the shed, so that any wind that blows in from the south carries dust and kind of pushes it and drives it through the weather seals. It falls just inside the shed before it gets a chance to get into the telescope. I'll turn on the audio, but I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. Okay, turn that off. That's annoying. Let's see here, Robert. What do you use to operate the sliding roof? PLC. It's actually an Arduino. So I have two Arduinos, one on the north wall that runs the roll-off roof mechanism, and one on the south wall that controls the flap. And then I can communicate with them over CAN bus, if you're familiar with CAN bus. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and disable the infrared again. What I found is that if I leave infrared on, the bugs go crazy around the cameras, and it really draws them in there. So I don't leave the infrared turned on unless I'm really wanting to do something like what I just did. Let's see. Dark sky area of New Mexico. Yes. It's very close to Animus, actually. Just about 15 minutes or so west of Animus, over on 80. But it's very, very close to Animus. And let's see. Am I using Starlink? No, unfortunately. The Starlink isn't operating this far south just yet, but Elon has said that they hope to have coverage above the 30th parallel north. So that should give a lot better opportunity for coverage here in Las Vegas. And even that will cover, if it's 30 degrees and north, that'll cover the astronomy shed there in Rodeo as well. But I have the Starlink gear here with me in Las Vegas, just doing some testing and playing around, seeing if I can figure out the communications protocol and different things. So John was going by Animus Highway, but decided it was going to be too cold in New Mexico. Yeah, it's a lot of people don't realize even that far south, it gets pretty chilly, and I've actually seen snow there, about 4 to 6 inches of snow. It's high plains, so it's about I think it's about 4,000 feet. Does that sound right, sweetie? Yep. So she said, yeah, 4,000 feet sounds about right for the elevation there. So it definitely does get cold in that area of New Mexico. And on that note, we'll go ahead and end the stream. We looked at Saturn and Jupiter. I'll see if I can fire this up again tomorrow for anyone who wants to take another look. And I'll also try to process that video that I took and see if I can get a still image that has both Jupiter and Saturn and the Galilean moons. Augusto, how long did it take me to build? It took me a month to build to about 90%. And then the last 10% took me another 3 months. And that the month that I built most of it, I actually took off from work. So I was able to do all of that pretty much 7 days a week nonstop, as long as I was awake. And then the other 3 months I was working, so I was only able to work on the observatory in the evenings and on the weekends. Let's see. Glad you all enjoyed it. Very glad you thought it was interesting. Do I plan to do this on Monday night? As long as the weather cooperates, I will give it another shot Monday night. I'll try again tomorrow night as well. So hopefully the weather holds out and we can make this work. So, hey, no problem, Red Jag. Well, I'm going to try to cast again tomorrow night and Monday night. So Monday will be the point of closest conjunction, and we'll see what we can do there. Hey, thanks, Steve. Yeah, glad you enjoyed it. Hey, Arnie. Yep, thank you very much. Glad everyone enjoyed the stream, and we'll try to see you again tomorrow and Monday. There's a lot of other people that are streaming this online as well. Backyard Astronomy, Chuck's Astrophotography, Alan Mitchell, all of those guys have been streaming this tonight as well. They're at various points across the country, so you may be able to catch them earlier and then me later in the evening. Let's see. Steve says, on Monday, will Saturn completely disappear behind Jupiter? No, they won't actually be that close. They'll be less than a degree apart in the sky, but they won't actually overlap at all. So we'll see what it looks like. Hopefully, again, weather permitting, we'll see what it looks like tomorrow night and then again Monday night when it's at the closest conjunction. So, all right, everyone. Well, hey, thanks again very much for everyone showing up, and we'll try to see you tomorrow and Monday. I'll wait and see what the weather looks like before I push the stream to start. And so if you subscribe and hit the little bell icon, it'll send you a notification as soon as we go live, and you can check us out. Show some of the color processed video. Robert, yeah, I'm gonna, well, actually I can't. I don't have color processing. So what I did tonight was only using what's called the luminance filter. So it's a clear filter. So all I got was basically brightness detail or black and white kind of gray. So I don't actually have color data, but I will show, I'll try to process that data tomorrow and then show what level of detail I can get from the black and white itself. But unfortunately, it won't be color. I don't have what's called a one-shot color camera in New Mexico. I have that here with me, but that doesn't do me any good down in New Mexico. All right. Well, thanks everyone again. We'll see you tomorrow or Monday, weather permitting. Thanks. Bye-bye.